Welcome back to another exciting edition of Sports Talk is McKimmie. Of course, you hear Van Halen coming in on every single segment we're doing tonight. And while we're listening to Van Halen, we got to say happy 25th birthday to Wolfgang Van Halen. Of course, the Zen Master and the Loose Cannon. We actually went and saw Van Halen up in Kansas City earlier this year. And
epic trip.
Oh, it was an epic trip. Of course, we got treated with nothing but the best on that, from VIP parking to, it was just, Van Halen took care of us, and we appreciate Van Halen always, supporting Sports Talk is McKimmie. But, we've been talking NCAA. We're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to do a little blast from the past. Of course, we've done Mount Rushmore segments and stuff like that. We're actually going to talk about who we think our top players all time in NCAA men's basketball is. And I'm going to go and throw it over to you, Zen Master, and tell me who you got. Who is your, are you doing your starting five or are you doing your top five?
I'm doing my starting five, and then I cheated. And while I'm gathering this list, I'm looking at all the people that I left out. I left out Bill Walton. I left out Ralph Sampson. I left out Michael Thompson. I left out so many great players. Bobby Hurley, could have easily been a point guard for any team. But this is the starting five that I think of. It would, be the best starting five in the history of college basketball if somehow they could all play together in their prime. And I've got Magic at running the point. I got Pistol Pete, the greatest scorer in NCAA history. How do you not add Larry Bird, taking Indiana State, as you were talking about earlier, revitalizing basketball in America along with Magic at the college level, and then later on, of course, they did it at the NBA level. Elgin Baylor, who put Houston on his back to fight UCLA, where they succumbed to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was also on the team as my center, to UCLA when they were at the very beginning of the run of those 10 championships in 12 years. But David, I couldn't stop there. I was like, I got to have a bench. These guys are going to get tired. So this is my bench. I only made a 5-man bench. I got Christian Laettner. I mean, I'm not a Duke fan. That's putting it lightly. Not a Laettner fan. But when you look at his stats, when you look at the 4 Final Fours, when you look at the 2 championships, he was a winner. Of course, Michael Jordan, he's going to make it on the team. What a great player, obviously. But he's going to start on the bench of my team. Wilt Chamberlain's going to sit on the bench in my team. Len Bias. I have probably never seen a more dominant year since the 1970s than the year Len Bias had before his tragic death. So he makes it, and then Isaiah Thomas is going to come off the bench and spell magic at the point.
Well, Mike, and I went a little bit different. You actually went with my top 5 players of all time, and I'm telling you, this was just a really hard list. I did go with Lou Alcindor. To me, he's the number 1 NCAA player of all time. I mean, they changed the rules. They outlawed dunking due to his dominance. I mean, that's just absolutely incredible that someone would change the game like that. I think it's...
he's the Babe Ruth of college basketball.
I totally agree. And it's a tragedy to me that he never coached in the NBA. I just think that's ridiculous that he never got the opportunity to coach in the NBA. But to me, he's the best player of all time. I'm going to actually go, too, with another UCLA player, Bill Walton. I have him listed number 2. I mean, when you go 21 of 22 against Memphis in the 1973 title game, I just don't know how you can play better than that. And he was so dominant, too, in his first couple years in the NBA until, of course, he developed all the knee troubles. But, Bill Walton, to me, is still number 2. This was just such a hard list to pick. I did have to go with Christian Laettner, actually in my top 5. I know that's kind of a controversial talk, but I'll just throw this number out. All right, in a given season, you will play a maximum of 6 NCAA tournament games. In his 4 years in college, he played a total of 23 postseason games because his team was dominant. Him and Bobby Hurley, and he was clutch. And yes, people hated him. I hated him. I absolutely could not stand Christian Laettner. I'd suggest you watch the ESPN 30 for 30. I hate Christian Laettner. But when it came game time, he just absolutely delivered.
He would make you root for Kentucky. You hated him so much.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he was just, just a frustrating person to watch play. I mean, he just frustrated me, but honestly, you gotta respect him. To me, I actually did not go with Pistol Pete on my list. To me, Pistol Pete, a great player, but also I look at it this way. Pistol Pete shot 43% the year he averaged 44 points a game. He was jacking up a lot of shots, and to me, he didn't play the defense to get him over the top. But I'm going to say Oscar Robertson's another one I'm going to pick that's in my top 5. I'm going to have him number 4. Of course, just probably one of the best all-around players of all time. Also went on to have a great NBA career. Laettner, sometimes I think because his NBA career wasn't as dominant, which he was still a very good player. He was an all-star player, but the expectations coming into the NBA wasn't. But this is strictly NCAA, so we're talking just how they played in the NCAA. And then I'm going to go with this one's probably going to be at my controversial pick, but I'm actually going to go. I was battling. It's like, if I just have 5 guys, I'm going to have a tie at 5th. Bird and Magic, to me, those two completely saved NCAA tournament. They completely changed how the NCAA tournament was viewed. The record ratings that they have, just absolutely incredible. Also, they ended up going on and revitalizing the NBA, but just that one season with them battling it out, I mean, it's still talked about now. Everyone's talking about, 1979, everyone's still talking about that game between them. You're talking about Larry Bird taking a team that honestly probably wouldn't have even made the NIT without Larry Bird. That's how great he was. To me, it's a tie because when you say Magic and Bird, they always are synonymous to me. So I am cheating. I do have 6 in there, but...
And you look at the players that were leaving, like Jordan's not even on your list. What we generally consider the greatest player of all time. And let's note that Kobe and LeBron are not eligible because they went straight from high school. But you made a point about being great college players, not necessarily great NBA players, but great college players. Which is why when you look at this list, there are so many people that could be added to it. Bobby Hurley, again, Duke. Very frustrating if, unless you're a Duke fan. I think everybody hates Duke except for Duke fans. Kind of the Donald Trump of basketball.
Oh, Ralph Sampson is another one.
Ralph Sampson.
This was probably one of the hardest lists that we've ever compiled because there's so many different ways to look at it. Yeah, the Big Nasty. Who could argue against him? Yeah. 2 back-to-back NCAAs completely revitalized, the Razorback program. After we lost Day, Mayberry, Miller, and Morris, 4 guys to the NBA, he has us getting back to the Sweet 16 the next year.
Grandmama.
Larry Johnson,
UNLV. The list just it goes on and on and on. There are so many great players in the NCAA.
And honestly, our producer's telling us we got to go to break on this, but so many different things we could talk about on the NCAA. This is a great time of the year with March Madness. Of course, we're going to keep following up and doing more episodes, keeping everyone informed on the NCAA. But when we get back, we're going to keep talking basketball today. But we're actually going to let's discuss the Golden State Warriors when we come back. Are they going to beat the Bulls record? When we come back on Sports Talk is McKimmie.